Well, my friend, Clement wasn't sacked overnight like I hoped. I've spoken to several people inside Rangers, and I've got some crucial updates. There's a set date for Clement's sacking, but only if he doesn't lose the next game. Otherwise, he's out, along with some players the fans can't stand anymore. One of them is James Tavernier, and there's a lot of internal talk about him leaving. We'll go into details on that, as well as potential managers to replace Clement if he doesn't last until the international break. But shall we start with Tavernier? But first, to get daily Rangers news at your fingertips, just hit the notification bell. Let's get into the news. We are the people. So here's the rundown. Tavernier's taking a right hammering after his recent comments to the press. He was saying he's giving it all. He's got to live up to the standards expected at Rangers, especially after that rough midweek loss to Aberdeen that left us staring up at a 9-point gap behind Celtic and Aberdeen. But Ewan Murray from The Guardian wasn't having any of it. He went straight onto X saying it was all a load of nonsense, calling out the lack of trophies and saying that if Rangers really wanted to win, Tavernier wouldn't still be captain. Now, it's true, when things go sideways, Tavernier is often the first to get it in the neck. And sure, his performances have slumped lately. He's hardly been himself out there, but let's face it, there are bigger issues festering, aren't there? Poor recruitment, dodgy financial management, revolving door of key staff. It's not all down to one man, though. It's all landing on him. Interestingly enough, we almost saw the back of him this summer. Steven Gerrard was keen to whisk him away to the Middle East, and even Gio had a sniff from Besiktas, but nothing happened. Now, some are wondering if Rangers missed their chance to cash in before his form dropped off a cliff. He's got 18 months left come January, and if he carries on like this, any hope of a decent fee might well be down the drain. Some pundits, like Rory Loy, reckon he's just not the same bloke anymore. His body language, his sharpness, even his goals have dried up. They're saying it could be time for Rangers to move on, both with Tavernier and potentially with Clement, who's under his own pressure after recent performances. So here's the million-pound question. And let's not hold back. Is it time to cut ties with Tavernier, the man who's given us everything over the years but might now be past his best? Philippe Clement is digging in his heels, trying to defend his job at Rangers with some big talk about long-term vision, saying the club's in the early days of a rebuild. But let's face it, this rebuild has been painful to watch. We're 9 points adrift already, and fans have just about had enough. Now, here's where it gets controversial. Reports suggest that Rangers board might actually be willing to let Clement stick around for a couple of years, even if that means Celtic runs away with the league title not once but twice, which would see them break even on 55 titles and then surpass us on 56. For any Rangers fan, that's downright unthinkable. Now, Clement's got his share of excuses. He's pointing to recruitment issues, injuries, and a squad that's lacking balance. He's also reminding us that he's faced similar rough patches before and managed to turn things around elsewhere, which is all fine and well. But the difference here is that he's not just under pressure to improve. He's got to do it in a way that doesn't leave Rangers lagging behind in third place, with Celtic laughing all the way to another title. And the thing is, even the most rational fans are finding it hard to buy into his trust the process speech when they're watching uninspired football on the pitch week in and week out. Against Aberdeen, it looked like we'd given up. It's no wonder folk are fuming. One of the big problems, there's no one in the driver's seat behind the scenes. With no CEO, no sporting director, and not even a permanent chairman in place, there's barely anyone who could make a proper decision about Clement's future, even if they wanted to. John Gilligan's scrambling just to keep things running, let alone mounting a proper search for a new manager if it came to that. The lack of forward planning has left us in a mess, and it feels like there's no plan to get us out. Normally, by now, a competent sporting director would already be scouting new managerial options. A CEO would be looking at the numbers, and some sort of football authority would be guiding decisions. Instead, Clement stays for now because there's simply no one around to pull the trigger. But the board's patience is a huge gamble. As Tom English reported, a senior figure at Rangers hinted that they'd rather back Clement and let him build something over the long haul, even if that means conceding the league this year and next. This decision's apparently about finally putting a stop to the disastrous cycle of hiring and firing managers, 3 in the last 3 seasons alone. But the big question is whether it's worth it if it means handing titles to Celtic. They're already eyeing the chance to close in on 55 titles to match us, and one more would tip them over. For Rangers supporters, the very thought is almost impossible to stomach. Meanwhile, the fans are starting to vote with their feet. Sunday's cup match against Motherwell, usually a guaranteed sellout, isn't looking like it'll even be close to full. This is Rangers, where the fans are the lifeblood of the club. When they stop turning up, it's not just a loss of atmosphere, it's a crisis. If things carry on like this, we're staring down a tunnel where empty seats could become a new normal. As Stephen McGowan noted, it's almost unheard of to see fans abandoning the club in droves, but frustration is simmering, and without a drastic turnaround, it's only going to get worse. Clement's latest comments didn't do much to ease tensions either. He talked about how last season they turned things around in a short time and claimed he's got the same confidence here. But how long can he hold on to that claim if the results don't start showing up? He's also pointed out that he's dealing with a squad overhaul, which cut wages and brought in younger players, saying it's all to set up a better future. Fair enough, but fans aren't seeing results yet, and these promises are wearing thin. The team's performance has grown increasingly confused and pedestrian, and many supporters are finding it harder and harder to believe things will change. And here's another factor. Clement says he's had no discussions about being sacked, which seems to confirm the board's supposed commitment to riding out this rough patch. But we've seen this before, haven't we? Managers in Clement's position, Beale, Van Bronckhorst, and even Caixinha all got the boot once performances like these started piling up. Clement's talk of small margins and long-term planning might sound nice on paper, but in practice, patience among fans is wearing dangerously thin. So here's the question for every Rangers fan out there. Can you actually accept the board's decision to stick with Clement, even if it means giving up the next 2 titles to Celtic, or has the loyalty to a long-term vision reached its limit? But bringing in a replacement isn't as simple as it seems. Craig Moore's got his doubts about Kevin Muscat, who's enjoying a successful run in the Chinese Super League with Shanghai Port. Moore reckons the money and the allure of another league title in China might just be too tempting for Muscat to leave right now. There was a time, Moore says, when Muscat was neck and neck with Clement for the Rangers job, and that was probably the moment for him. Now, it might just be too late. And let's not forget, Muscat's got serious credentials, titles with Melbourne Victory and a J-League championship with Yokohama Marinos. He's proven he's got what it takes to win, and he's well aware of the demands at Rangers, having worn the shirt himself. But even if he were interested, it would be one big move to leave the security and the cash flow of China for the unpredictable terrain of Glasgow. Then there's Derek, McInnes being thrown into the mix as another potential option if Clement gets the chop. While McInnes has history and experience in Scottish football, it feels like a bit of a revolving door. Another familiar name, another short-term fix. And we've been there, haven't we? After Celtic bagged the last 3 titles under Postecoglou and Rodgers, we've seen manager after manager come in at Rangers, each one facing the same set of challenges. A squad with no cohesion, finances hanging by a thread, and fan patience running thin. This cycle of managerial changes without a solid foundation has been costly, not just financially, but in terms of the trust fans have in the club's direction. But now the board might be willing to stomach even more pain in the name of long-term stability. According to some, the hierarchy's ready to let Celtic take the next 2 titles if that's what it takes to end the cycle of manager churn and give Rangers a foundation for lasting success. The irony is, for all the mistakes this board's made, they might actually have a point. A quick fix just hasn't worked. If they stick with Clement and give him time to integrate his young signings, it might eventually bring consistency. But right now, Clement's post-match explanations are wearing thin and results aren't backing up his words. So fans are left in an agonizing spot as some want to pull the plug now and bring in a new face, anyone who can give Rangers a spark. Others see the logic in a longer-term approach, even if it's unthinkably painful to imagine Celtic possibly pulling ahead in title wins. Either way, Rangers fans are staring down a grim period whether Clement stays or goes. Replacing him might lead to the exact same story this time next year, and keeping him could mean toughing it out through a very rough road ahead in Govan. So here's the real debate for you. Is it worth the agony of watching Celtic run away with another title or 2 if it means Rangers finally break the cycle of quick fix managers? Or should the board cut their losses, give Clement his marching orders, and try once more for a quick turnaround? Comment below what you think about the news. Don't forget to leave a like on the video to help me out. I post videos every day talking about our Rangers, so if you're not subscribed, you're missing out on the latest news. See you soon.